Now, how do you feel about leftovers? Do you if you are cooking dinner, if you've made dinner and there are leftovers, are you excited about that? Are you like, yes, now I don't have to cook again? Or are you more like, oh my gosh, I do not care for this. I need something new and exciting.
You are listening to the Decluttering Club podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Mueller, and it's my mission to equip women to declutter their homes, their time, and their lives so that they have energy for what matters most.
You are listening to the Decluttering Club podcast, episode number 71. Today, we're going to talk about leftovers. I know lots of people really detest leftovers when they're cooking because they are looking for new things. But the opposite is true when we're talking about decluttering. Now, what do I mean by leftovers? We're not talking about food here. I don't know if you've noticed. We are talking about all of those dribs and drabs, the things that after you have decluttered your junk drawer or your closet or, that corner of the garage, the things that you haven't finished up. They're like the loose ends, the things that you have set aside because you're going to come back to them. Maybe you're going to come back to them because you didn't have time right away, or because it's a different project, or maybe you just didn't know what to do with these things. But for whatever reason, you have set them aside and now they are sitting there. And what do? I'm hearing from a lot of you that you do not like this situation. You're like, I got the decluttering down pat. That's amazing. Like, that's going really well. But also, I always end up with this pile or this box of things that I don't know what to do with, or it's more work. Well, I have a solution for you. And the good news is that there are 4 and only 4 ways to handle leftovers. And I know that one of these ways is going to be the perfect solution for you. So let's dive into them. So the first option of what to do with these decluttering leftovers is what most people do, and that is they ignore them. They do nothing with them. They sit there. They languish in a corner. They're that box that you open up and you're like, oh yeah, I did that. I put these in here 5 years ago and I thought I would come back to them and I haven't. So that is the first option. You do nothing. And that is a valid option. This is the equivalent of cooking and then putting the leftovers away, and they get shoved to the back of your fridge and nobody looks at them until they have become a science project and someone finally says, okay, we need to throw these out. That is the first choice. Do nothing. I don't recommend that one though. The second option is that they become a brand new project. And this is what a lot of you do. You decide, okay, I have set these things aside and I'm going to sell them, or I'm going to donate them, or this is the sneaky one. What could I do with these things? I could do something with them, and they become a brand new project. You've created more work for yourself. Now, this is all well and good. Okay, this is the equivalent of taking those leftovers and making them into a new dish. Some of you love this. This is super fun for you. But others of you are like, actually, I'm dreading this because I really don't want to eat that leftover chicken again. I don't want to make something out of these things, even though I kind of do. Like, part of your brain is going, yeah, you should make something with those things, or you should sell those, whatever, or you should find somebody who wants them. That's the equivalent of starting a brand new project. And this is a valid option. We're going to talk about how to choose here in a minute, but I just want to go through the 4 options first. So that's the first. Again, the first option is to ignore them. The second option is that the leftovers become a brand new project. The third option is to delegate your leftovers. Now, what does this mean? This means something like you tell someone else, hey, I've got a box that needs to be shredded. Would you go and shred these things for me? Or maybe you take it to the store and they shred it for you. So it's really not work for you. It's work for somebody else. Maybe your best friend loves having garage sales. And so she is itching to get your leftovers so that she can sell them at her garage sale. Amazing. We love this. Delegation is a wonderful thing. Just be careful that it isn't really like a new project for you. You want this to be out of your hands as soon as possible. That's option number 3. Now, option number 4 is my favorite. And this is the one that I recommend that you do, but although you probably aren't going to like this one at all. But this is the easiest one to do. This one takes 0 time. Takes some mental energy, but it doesn't take any physical effort. And that is to eliminate leftovers. Eliminate them. This is the equivalent of taking the leftovers, that last 2 or 3 bites of the dried out lasagna that nobody has eaten, and instead of putting them in a little container and letting them languish in the corner of the fridge, you just throw it out. It goes in the trash. And this is a valid option. And what this looks like is you come up with odds and ends after you've decluttered your junk drawer, and you're like, I don't really know what to do with these things. Well, I'm going to say, if you don't know what to do with them, then why don't we just let them go? Let's just get rid of them. Let's throw them out. Did you know you could do this? You don't have to keep them. You can just throw them out or donate them. That is what it looks like to eliminate the leftovers. You literally don't have to do any of that crap that you have been telling yourself you have to do. Because guess what, friends? You don't have to do anything. You are all adults. And you don't have to sell stuff. You don't have to turn stuff into other things. You don't have to shred things if you don't want to. You don't have to find a good home for them. You don't have to do any of it. Now, you might want to, and that'll be the topic of another podcast, but you don't have to. Now, if you are not used to throwing away your leftovers or delegating them, if you are used to, making new projects for yourself and then dreading the thought of getting into them, then I want you to just consider this. Because the reason that this is so painful is that you keep giving yourself work that you really don't want to do. And your body and your brain are like, you know what? I don't think so. And that is when you rebel and when you just can't get moving. That is because you are asking things of yourself or maybe demanding things of yourself that you really don't want to do. So I really want you to consider this because there is incredible freedom when you're willing to consider other options. Now, our brains don't like this. Our brains are like, you can't do it that way. This is the way we've always done it. Like something bad is going to happen if you throw that stuff out. And it's so uncomfortable. But that's just because we get very used to the way we do things. This is the way that feels safe and comfortable, even though we don't actually really like it. So if you're going to do something different, if you're going to do something new, it may feel uncomfortable at the beginning. So if it's new and different, it's gonna feel uncomfortable. And so I just want you to notice that. And like when it happens to you, I just want you to be like, oh, right, this is the part where I feel uncomfortable. It doesn't mean that I'm doing it wrong. The other thing I want you to know is that if you want to have different results, if you want your life to feel different, you cannot do things the way that you've been doing them all along. You have to do things differently. It just requires that you shift gears, and that can be kind of hard at the beginning. But I promise you, you will get used to doing things in a new way. And it can become your new normal, and that's totally fine. It just takes a little while to get there. So if you are dreading the thought of leftovers, and leftovers are a very real obstacle to getting started in the first place, then why don't you promise yourself, you know what? Any leftovers that we have, we're just going to deal with them in the very simplest way possible, and they're not going to become a burden. You may have heard me say this before. Little hinges swing big doors. Little hinges swing big doors. And what this means is a little change in your thinking can make a big change in how you function and the results that you get. So this could be one of those little hinges, one of those little changes that you make, that you try out and see if it actually creates a lot more freedom in your life. You don't have to deal with the leftovers. There are no rules here. This is just the way that you've always operated. And I personally do not deal with leftovers. I just don't. So I don't want anything to take up unnecessary time in my life. Our time is so precious, my friends. Our time is so valuable, and we throw it away. We literally are throwing it away when we're saying, oh, I need to do this, or I have to make something out of that. Like, why? Why do you have to make anything out of that? Why? You don't. Now, do you want to? If you can honestly say, I want to, then I am all in. But if you're telling yourself, I have to because this is a really good box, or this is a really good jar, or whatever it is, I just want to encourage you to try it out. Just see what happens. Let it go. Another one is probably lurking in the corner somewhere, and you're not going to miss out on anything. Let me know how it goes with these leftovers. This is a really big deal, and this can be a really, really productive change, and it can really accelerate your decluttering in a very exciting way. That's all I have for you this week. Enjoy. Let me know how it goes, and I'll see you next week.
That's all we have for you today. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review. It would really help us to get the word out. And if you'd like to continue your decluttering journey with us, find us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube at Decluttering Club, or on our website at thedeclutteringclub.com.